Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Artful Chiropractor Podcast. My name is Dr. Ray Daniels, and this week I've got my long-lost brother, Dr. Lance.von.Stade, back on the mic. Super grateful to have him on and to be able to connect and talk about a topic that is extremely powerful and one that I've really enjoyed having this early on in the year, as I think it will be something that can really have a profound impact on the year ahead and really being able to take steps towards actualizing the vision that each and every one of us has. And I know it will be different from person to person, but simplifying and having accountability and really discovering the one thing that is going to have the biggest impact on our vision is so important. And Dr. Lance.von.Stade, as always, does an amazing job of getting this message across, talking about his experience and what has led him to this point of really having to simplify things to get the results that he wants, and his process around accountability, how to keep that simple yet very effective, and a few other things. So with that, I hope you all enjoy this one, and I hope 2019 is treating you all well. I love and appreciate all of you, and so grateful for your feedback and listening, and yeah, make it an awesome day. Dr. Lance, good to have you back on, brother. It's been a minute.
Yeah, man. Nice to be back. How you doing?
I'm doing awesome, dude. Excited to get to connect with you. It'll be a nice, quick, and powerful episode, I think. I'm excited to talk about simplicity. I was creeping on I don't know if it was your New Year's intentions, but simplicity was the one you had for professional. So, and it's been a minute.
He's a creep. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, simplicity.
So was that a pain point for you? Is that what sparked that?
Yeah, definitely. I think 2018 was as spread broad as I've been in a very long time. I think I've been ebbing and flowing with challenging myself, increasing my capacity, and then doing it long enough where I notice a bit of decrease in my effectiveness in certain places, or even if it's a maintenance of my effectiveness, it's not a progression of the results that I'm seeing in the places where I want them to. For instance, my practice, we have had people continuously coming in, but I would not say the practice is growing tremendously, because I've had Kairos and Athletes on Purpose and Equinox and spreading myself with a new baby this last year. So many places took my energy, or I chose to give my energy in all these places. And so therefore it's just very broad, very superficial versus very specific and very deep. And this year I'm looking forward to simplifying everything and finding, we've talked about 80-20 ad nauseum on here, but just getting very pinpoint on what is the vision I'm trying to provide and what is the time period that I'm in my life right now, and what do I need to continue to do in order to create space to savor this time period, because it's so unique with my child and my business. And Katina Manning, working with her a lot recently, she said, Lance, you're already on the mountaintop. Like you graduated, you got the license, you had the kids, you married the girl, you live in San Francisco. Yes, you could continue to grow and build and do all these things and recognize you're already there, So when someone who's been in practice that long and been in life that long and has had that much experience stops me in my tracks like that, I feel obligated to really give a deep dive into the message and extract the lesson. And for me, the lesson was simplicity, realizing there's 100 things I could be doing, but there's only 2 that I want to be doing.
Right.
And that is being with my kid or contributing to the world in a way that builds a better world for my kids, and that balance this year is just being way more specific about the simplicity of it.
Awesome, man. Was your interaction with her the catalyst for you to take a step back, reflect, and, see, where you were going to narrow your focus, or was that a natural progression over the end of 2018?
I think the first impetus is having my second child. So Connor is now in the world, and I've always known at least as much as you can know, my intention is that we were going to have 2 kids.
Yeah.
So now having our 2 and thinking to myself, like, the team is established. So now that we know who is on the bus, where are we going to take this bus? And the beginning of that conversation happened when I did 3 weeks of no social media when Connor was born, did 3 months of paternity leave where I wasn't really actively seeing people in practice. And I was still going in and out of the office, but really had a lot of time to think about the direction of not just practice or KTC or these different businesses, but the lives of my family members and how I'm distributing myself. And it gave me the space. And I also will give credit to Kevin Kate, my coach, who I talk to weekly.
Yeah.
I told him, I'm like, hey, dude, I really want you to coach me like an athlete. I want you to get a little more intense with giving me feedback. Like if my jump shot looked like shit in basketball and it was because my elbow kept flaring out, like as a coach, you would tell me, bro, your elbow keeps flaring out. Pull that in and knock out 100 of them. And for me, it was like my reliability of the things that I promised to myself that I would do. You know, I could show up for a lot of other people, but the things I wanted to do for myself and for my family will often get on the back burner. And so I leaned on him to lean on me. And that has been really effective. And a lot of that is commit to one thing that in this week, one thing I will commit to that increases the quality of my life and promotes a more sustainable, safe, and flourishing future. One commitment, you know, and there's like the one thing book and there's the 80-20 of the 80-20. And for me, it's just what's the one commitment. And then he scores me on my reliability. And so I think the first time we did this, I was like, I'll do 10 commitments this week. Boom. And I think it was a crazy week and I did like one of them or something like that. And so the message he gave me that really like drove the nail in was, okay, great, Lance. So we've finished week 1 of this project. And so far you are 10% reliable. That means if you make 10 promises, I can rely on you for one of them. And that hit me really hard. It's like, wow. Because hearing it that way, when I make a promise, you know, I want it to be communicated to the person that it means a lot to me and you mean a lot to me and I'm going to follow through on this. And hearing that within that week I had made myself 10 promises and only followed through on 10%, it scared me to think about where else in my life I'm making promises and how reliable I am currently and how I have been for people. And when it comes to trust being the major facilitating factor in healing, I think that goes beyond chiropractic and out of the office. That's in family and life relationships. So I'm really buckling down, and we went all the way down to, okay, let's just do 3 commitments. And the following week, I could only do 2. And then we went down to 2 and I could only do 1. And so this like I think 2 weeks ago, we got down to like, okay, you get to pick one thing for the entire week to do. And I followed through with it. And so I was like ebbing and flowing. I was like, I'm 10% reliable, 30% reliable. And this week my report was like 67% reliable. Yes.
Nice. Yeah.
So not quite something to celebrate yet, but you know, it's not about the grade, it's about the growth. And I feel really connected to the fact that simplicity is necessary so I can be more reliable for the people I care about.
Yeah. And you bring up such a great point with the accountability. To be able to have Kevin there to get really, you know, raw and uncomfortable and maybe give you feedback that you're craving, but is uncomfortable, I think, for that process to get started. I think you and Kevin are really close and you probably have that relationship where you can get uncomfortable with each other, but it took you, you know, asking him to like get really real with me and call me out. And it seemed like that was really the catalyst to be like, holy cow, I'm not following through on what I'm saying that I'm going to be doing.
Yep. Yeah. Saying that I leaned on him to lean on me resonates with me. And he also checks in on me. And at the end of the session, he's like, hey, I want to check in because the style of my coaching for this session was a lot more regimented. And I want to make sure that I want to see how you're experiencing this. And for me, it's, yes, I hate it. And I love it. Let's keep going. And I don't want it to be comfortable. That's not the job of a coach. Right. And I need to have a mirror that shows me my authentic self, not something with a filter on it that makes me feel good. and comfortable posting my picture because I look a little better than I actually do,
Right. And the part that you hated the most was the fact that reflecting and seeing that, okay, I didn't follow through on 9 of the 10 things I said. Is that the biggest part that was hardest for you?
I think the hardest part was when I heard that. I thought about Monica and how many little promises I might make and not follow through with, and how stressful that could be for her. And even if it's like she's saying, hey, can you just drop off this thing at the thrift shop because we don't need it? And I'll be like, yep, cool. And then like a week later, it's in the car. I haven't done it yet. That's like just a little cut, and the death by 1,000 cuts concept I resonate with a lot. And I think if I have 9 cuts out of 10 on my own commitments, I don't want to even think about the fact that I have that habit with Monica. And so that's something that I'm not willing to put up with. It's a standard that I've set for myself now, that priority number 1 is be a reliable partner for Monica. And I think that if I have a coach who's hammering me about my commitments to my chiropractic practice, the side effect of that is I'll become a more reliable partner at home as well.
Yeah, that's really powerful, man. And I mean, you touched on it a little bit, but obviously your contribution and the impact that you're making that's a big value. But then obviously your connection to your sons and Monica is the other one. And I know that will guide you on deciding on your 1 things or your, couple things, 2 to 3 things, whatever that is. How would you recommend our listeners like really breaking down, okay, what is my 1 thing going to be? And that might be too long of a conversation, but maybe just the 80-20 of that process.
The 1 thing of all the 1 things.
Right.
I think you have to start with vision. And I know a lot of people get frustrated when they hear that because they're like, God damn it always comes back to that. And it always comes back to that because no one ever really sits down and does it. Yeah. And if you need a process to walk you through doing your vision, hit me up, Dr. lance.von.stade at gmail.com, and we can get you hooked up. And you got to walk through it, and you have to build accountability. So you have to have someone else go through it with you, and then you have to share it with someone so that you put it into words. And also something I've learned a lot from Seth Godin's stuff, which I imagine we'll dive into a little bit, is like contribute to someone else's vision. When you help someone else figure out what their vision is, number 1, you have someone else who's willing to go into it with you for yours, but you've also realized how easy it is to do it for someone else and how hard it is to do it for ourselves. So flex the muscles for someone else first, because you'll just see how possible it is, because you don't have to go live that vision. And that's the scary part.
Yeah.
So it's easy to help someone else make these big plans. And then you do it for yourself and have someone there to help you. And then hopefully a month later, check in, or 2 weeks later, or a weekly group or something that can hold you accountable and support you is a big piece. Because when you know where you're going, you know what step to take first. Because if you're going north, why would you go south? That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And if you know that what the goal is a lifestyle or a place to live or a certain type of practice you want to do, like your vision can be as big as you want it or as specific as you want it. But the more dialed in it is and the more connected emotionally you are to it, the more clarity you'll have on what makes sense as a first step.
I want to go back a second and talk about the accountability and going in on that process for someone else first. That is underestimated process, I think, in terms of what it takes to find someone who you're going to be accountable to. And I mean, that is such a big position for you to ask someone to do that, and then for you to be that of someone. Do you have any thoughts around that process for listeners to finding that person or just trying to attract that into their life?
First, I want to deal with, you describe it as such a big task. And I think that's a perception that can scare people away from doing it, because you can design accountability in however you want. You could ask someone, hey, do you mind if I email you once a month to show you what progress I've made? You don't have to respond to it. You don't have to say anything. For me, it's just, I know that you're going to get it, and that's enough accountability for me. So it doesn't put a lot of task on the person if that's not something they can handle. Oh, and some people are like, you know what, I'm a 70-year-old retired CEO, and I would love to like meet with you for 4 hours every Friday afternoon and dive into what you accomplished this week. And for them, it would be like a lifesaver because they're so used to go, 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 and now they got nothing to do.
Right.
So, and everything in between. I chose to hire Kevin, so I pay him to do it because I know that's accountability on me. I'm putting some of my financial resource into this. And I've had accountability groups in the past where it's just like friends coming together, we're going to show up for each other, and then something comes up. And whatever, if a fundamental need isn't met, then oftentimes the self-exploration and vision starts to drop off as a priority. But for me, when I'm spending my finances, that's pretty low on the totem pole of resource that feeds my family and keeps me safe. So it's really hard to knock off as a priority.
Right. So, yeah, no, I appreciate you clearing that up. And yeah, it is a perception concern. And I think more of where that was coming from was in the sense of the critical feedback or the uncomfortable feedback to get. And that's, you just mentioned how that was really, really important of Kevin, to give you that. And I would say in my own experience, it's been hard to have, created that, even to be that for somebody else, to really get real and have uncomfortable conversations around that, especially, when people, I don't know, you're doing well, like you're doing really well for the most part. And so for them to give you feedback, they're like, oh, you're already doing so good in these other areas, but there's just a whole story created around that. But, so I guess that's where that was coming from is finding someone who's willing to kind of tell you what you don't want to hear but you need to. And I think just for me, I think it's been a journey of really trying to be that for somebody else and find that as well.
Yeah. I think the artistry in it is using questions rather than comments. And when you can simply reflect back to something someone has already said and promised they would do, then you can just ask, did you do it? And if not, I don't even care why not. It's just, okay, what can you do in the future to where when you say you're going to do that, you actually do it? And you reconnect with them and realize that thing you decided you were going to do was what you determined to be the most likely thing that would get your needs met, take you closer to your vision, right? And if they say yes, then that's where, for me, I had to get to the point where you're measuring my percentage of reliability. I mean, I talk about hard-headed, like I've been beating this down for months now, but it's unrelenting. And so I have someone that I can trust to hold me accountable. And we continue to come back to what is the vision I'm trying to produce? What is the mission I'm on? Here are the 100 things I could do. What's the one thing I'm going to do? Did I do it? Yes, great. What's the next thing I could do? And if I didn't do it, what I'm saying by not doing that is that I don't really want the vision. Otherwise, I would have done it. Mm-hmm. And just being in a space with someone who can hold that space, can ask you that question without attachment. And for me, I had to pay someone to do it because I want the results quicker than I would be able to get with someone who's worried about being kind to me. Mm-hmm. And I want to be able to request to someone, Kevin, like, bro, like you're my coach. I'm paying you to be my coach. I need you to work me hard, man. Like I need to feel it. Push me harder, please. Put another plate on the barbell. Like we're going.
Right.
And so there is an art. Like, and there's no denying that I could not coach someone like Kevin coaches them. He does it full time, and he's constantly learning on better ways to influence people to do the things that they know they need to do. And not everyone can afford his fee. And so finding the balance of, can you find someone that you have a lot of trust in who also has a need? And all you do is you figure out what's the goal that you have, whether it's 10 years out, 5 years out, 3 years out, 6 months out, 3 weeks out, tomorrow. What are 100 things that would get you there? List them all out, 100 things you could possibly do. And then there's the 80-20 directly. Pick 20 of them. Okay, now, boom, put those off to the side. Now pick 3 of those. Boom, now pick 1. And I think it's Warren Buffett actually who talks about pick the 20 things that you want to do in the next year and then only pick 3 of them. And then recognize that if you start doing any of the other ones, you have failed.
Right.
You know, like I want to learn Spanish
practice.
and learn the guitar and grow my practice and go on vacation with my son. And I want to, like, I only get 3 of those. And so if I choose vacation with my son, learn guitar, learn Spanish, and grow my practice, like grow my practice is 4th. If I find myself trying to grow my practice, it's because I actually don't want to accomplish the first 3. So there's no set rules about how many you get to pick, but that concept, that ideology, and that thought process of weeding out, recognizing there is only so much I can give to so many things. If I distribute it too broadly, I won't move any of them forward. Yeah. And if I can focus it on the one, and the one might have 3 components to it, then it's the most likely to move you in that direction quickly. And that's why it's so important to calibrate your why and your vision first. And then the accountability is just asking the 3 questions of, is your vision accurate? Okay. Did you say that thing you were going to do is what was going to take you there fastest and furthest? Yes. Did you do it? No. Okay. That can be the end of the accountability. Just bringing the person's awareness to the fact that they are not following through on their commitments to their vision. We're a self-healing, self-regulating organism, and oftentimes we just need a little more connection to ourselves. And that question just turns our attention into ourselves.
Such a powerful process, man, and a great, piece of insight going into 2019. I mean, we're already halfway through month 1, but yeah. I'm gonna listen back through this again. There's a lot of golden nuggets, and that's how I have attempted to tackle 2019. I've got 4 habits that I want to implement with one habit per quarter. And when I was starting to do this, it was like, oh, that's just not very much. But I'm like, if I actually made these 4 habits, and I mean, it would change my life. And there's an uncomfortable process of like the thought of doing less. But I'm excited that I've had this intention this year as well to just really simplify and have that intention of the one thing. And also another book is Essentialism, and hearing the author of that, which is something McCown, I think, talked with Tim Ferriss on Greg McCown on his new podcast. I'm like, wow, that this process is worth diving into over and over and over again, and being able to distinguish good from essential. And that's really hard. And especially once you start to get a certain level of success on whatever that means to you, like that becomes really, really important to distinguish between the two. So yeah, I thank you for your time, man. And this is going to be a short and sweet, but very effective episode. And I know you got another appointment coming up. So thanks, brother.
Yeah, man, my pleasure. Nice to hear your voice.
Likewise, man. And we'll be talking soon.
All right, cheers.
All right, TAC listeners, if you enjoy this one, head over to iTunes or Stitcher so you can subscribe to the podcast and get an automatic download of our newest episode each and every week. While you're at it, we would love a review, a comment, a rating, anything that will allow us to reach more docs and more students and continue to raise the bar in chiropractic performance training. If you haven't yet checked out the artfulchiropractor.com, you can do that for show notes for this episode and previous ones, along with any of the resources that our docs are dropping. And if you haven't yet checked out the Kairos Training Culture Community Facebook page, you have to get there, send a request with a message of who you are and why you want to be a part of the group, because there are so many amazing golden nuggets that are being dropped every single day that are elevating the chiropractic performance game. So with that, I hope you all have an amazing rest of your week as always, and until next time, peace.